Chapter 39. The Queen of May wears combat boots. The big church wedding Laurel whisper fantasized to Carlisle in grotty hotel rooms and when curled between instrument cases in the back of travel, grew instead into an elaborate event on the terraced gardens of Evelynton Plantation. The impressive brick and column Georgian Revival manor surveyed a tidewater prospect of sinuous creeks uncurling through dark forests toward the James River. She marched at the head of a troop of bridesmaids collected from people Carlisle didn't know, except from infrequent references. They included two older sisters, Heather, and the firstborn, Flora. She'd lived out of the country for years, Turkey, Germany, the Channel Island of Jersey, following teaching and translator jobs. Heather dwelt amid the techno-renaissance of Seattle and didn't often make it back east. The sisters declined in height per their birth date. Flora, a willowy, almost 6-foot blonde, to 5'7" Heather, gaunt and straight-haired brunette and enigmatic behind big black-rimmed glasses. The women of the ceremony wore flowing, handmade gowns that floated as sun-brightened morning mist. A shop of Charlottesville seamstresses constructed the garments from cotton and chiffon, silk and lace, adorned by small tassels and fringes and silk mesh bodices. The dressmakers took on Carlisle as a challenge. Finding occasion-suitable shoes proved elusive. Laurel intervened. "Wear boots," she said on the phone from Oberlin. "The biggest, ugliest you can find." "I can dye 'em," Carlisle suggested from Lee Street. No, that's not you." "Laurel, how you doing? How you doing all this? Baby and marrying Colby and the big-time university classes?" "I cry," she said matter of fact. "I cry until I heave." Carlisle pressed her forehead to a bent arm braced against the kitchen door lintel. "Elf, listen. Don't let my Sasquatch feet add to your misery." "No misery. Okay, it's just that I'm one me, and everything else is in huge multiples, except for Colby. He's the one big single thing I love. And you. Monroe is the smallest thing I love right now. One day, you'll tell me how your wedding blew up into Charles and Diana. Get boots." She discovered at Exile Clothing on Gray Street a pair of 14-eye lace-ups suitable for marching into the mud hell of 1914, or a springtime wedding on the grounds of a James River plantation. The appointed day of May 19th, 1997, and the chosen hour of 2 p.m., as described on the cream and gold invitations, arrived bright and in the comfortable mid-80s, an afternoon that one would have wanted to capture and release into the wild for such an occasion. The wedding party consisted not just of immediate and distant relations, but most, if not all, of the High Tree community. The grungiest of the residents cleaned up and hauled themselves from Pennsylvania County's woods to see the last of the Gray girls, all raised among them, get slid into the bonds alongside a mandolin player and Monroe's father. Carlisle, ready ahead of the other bridesmaids, trooped around above the fray at Evelynton's modern event and wedding center tucked within the hillside by the big brick house. She did not feel inside her outward projection of regal confidence in the romantic gown that bared her left shoulder to reveal a constellation of freckles trickling down her back. The other women complimented the arrangement of a 3-layered coil of corded braid surmounted by a crown of dahlias, roses, jasmine, and yellow-pointed ivy greenery. The preparation activity reached a frenzied crescendo of hairpins, floral weaving, makeup and hair product, busted seams and emergency stitching, trembling lips and laughter and party camera picture taking. When Carlisle went to the patio for a cigarette break, she caught the welcome sight of Bruce grasping his cane and Weems beside him. He'd had a big bachelor's night with Colby and the Straight Straws gang. Weems stuffed in his tuxedo, hot, sweating, unsteady, burping and pale. "I think I might get sick," he whispered to Bruce once, twice. "Straighten up. You can get through it." "Don't know, dude." He wiped his brow. "This is bad." They noticed Carlisle at the same time. Bruce pitched his scratchy voice for deliberate overhearing. "Wait, is that Carlisle Damnation Montgomery?" "Huh? Oh, no. That's a girl." Carlisle pursed and glowered and made a dramatic mime of one substantial raised middle finger directed toward Weems and the other to Bruce. She hiked her dress to clamber toward them. "Uh-oh, she's coming for us." "And I can't run." "Don't worry, Bruce." Weems stepped in front of him. "I'll protect you." He wavered, though, and issued a tremendous belch. Carlisle, hands on hips, hooted. "Felt that one in the soles of my boots." "Oh, dude, don't remind me. I just think I'm dying." Bruce placed a hand on his side and winced. "Williams, man, it only hurts when I laugh." "Sorry, I guess I'm cutting out the jokes in my speech." Carlisle asked what speech that might be. Weems, whose confusion seemed legitimate, said, "You know, the speech, the thing. After the thing we're here for." Carlisle, arms crossed, explained that he need not worry about speaking at the reception. "We thought of you, Weemsy, and then," she patted his shoulder, "we thought better of it." Weems blew out his cheeks. "Dude, that's such a burden off my mind." Bruce groaned. "What are you two doing up here? Scoping out my bridesmaids? God, those women are driving me crazy." She made gabbling mouths with her hands. "Yickety yak, yickety yak. How's my hair? How are my eyes?" And the crying and giggling. Really hate that giggling. "You ever seen me yickety yak? Or giggle?" The men believed not in both cases. Weems opened his powder blue tuxedo jacket. "Got a little something right here that'll take the edge off." "I got that covered." She reached inside a small faux pearl-covered purse for a round flask. A porthole allowed her to examine the depletion. Jesus. Half a tank. It's been a challenging morning. "You see me? I'm ready. I did my own damn hair. Let's get this elf married already. I held her baby. I smoked cigars with the daddies. I made it through the rehearsal dinner and didn't even have to arm wrestle anybody. God, it's hot. You think it's hot?" "Hey, Carlisle," Bruce said. "Guess what? You look amazing." "Yeah," said Weems. He adjusted his stance. "Well, thank you, fellas. I feel like an over-decorated Christmas tree. But here's the best part." She pulled up her dress to exhibit the boots. The men whistled. Weems said, "If anybody objects to this holy union, they got to answer to you." "Tell you what," and Carlisle grinned, "can you believe this place? We're 20 minutes out of town. Y'all be proud of Laura right now. Just like before a show. Cool. Prepared. Her day, man. What do you think about these, though?" She tilted her head and pushed hair away to reveal the trefoil emerald leaf clusters in her earlobes. "Beauties," Weems said, and burped. "Excuse me." "No excuse for you. Got 'em at Halcyon. Vintage." Carlisle gave them the one eye and followed their view down the slope toward the patio where the bridesmaids swirled in their dresses. The girls below goofed for the goateed photographer. Their shrill laughter didn't attract Carlisle's attention. The men's gaze soon shifted. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" Carlisle said. "Like how?" "Anyway, Bruce. Present," he straightened as best he could. "After the formal part of the day, since you're here and we're here and all, Route 1 south. You okay with it? Doctors and all? Alicia okay? We'll talk. But I mean, I'm up for it. We're all cool." She said, "I'm just so freaking happy to have you standing here. I can barely see straight." Bruce bobbed his white blonde head. "Yup, back at you." Weems sighed. "You're gonna hug down, because I'll fall down if we do. If we even try." "You look like you're about ready to go rolling down that hill right into the creek. Probably do you some good to soak your head." "You know I love you, too." Weems tried for petulant. "You're just saying that." The bridesmaids cried Carlisle's name. She jerked a thumb toward the bridesmaids. Duty calls. Williams shook up his jacket sleeve. T-minus 35 minutes and counting. Carlisle took one last bolt from the flask. She leaned over to hug their necks and started down the slope, one hand holding up the dress, the other as though shooing the bridesmaids inside their cave. Carlisle held to an unbroken resolve throughout most of the ceremony. She played incidental music underneath a canopied pergola for the dearly beloved and their friends to make their way into the rows of uncomfortable fold-out white wooden chairs. She commanded the bridesmaids in their procession. She gave a heart-squeezing rendition of A Peaceable Kingdom, and an a cappella version of the standard simple gifts. Though her throat tickled, perhaps from swallowing a bug, Colby and Laurel came before the high tree officiator and spiritual guide, who in her flowing gray-black hair and robes and pendants seemed an actor playing a part. What cracked Carlisle's demeanor wasn't when they exchanged their personal vows, but when presented as a couple, they sat side by side and played a duet they created for this day. When Laurel's tiny white shoe started tapping on Colby's boot, and he sidled closer, that moment